From Estero, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. Where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex is taking the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the HUG hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're tackling two uncomfortable questions every married couple should ask. What kind of lover am I? And would I want to be intimate with a lover like me?
And as we talk about that, I just want you to think about this quote, that honesty is the highest form of intimacy. And as as you think about that in regard to this episode, maybe it's about being honest with yourself. Right? What kind of lover are you? But before we get there, we start every episode with a hug. And this hug comes from a comment that was in the One Family private Facebook group in regard to last year's 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway.
Which would have been this year's.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny that once it happens, it just automatically, in my mind, gets relegated to the year.
That happened in April.
It's still 2025, people.
Yes.
It's a new school year. It kind of feels like 2026. Anyway. Here's what the hug was. It said, we went last year, and after 27 years of marriage, it was truly one of our best trips as a couple. No kids to focus on, just the two of us. Tony and Elisa created an incredible group and atmosphere that made the experience unforgettable. We highly recommend the cruise and definitely plan to join another in the future.
Yeah. Our marriage getaways are amazing. We're going to be putting on the 4th annual one come next year, 2026. If you're interested in joining Elisa and I and others in the One Family, we would love to have you join us. You can learn more about the marriage getaway at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/getaway. I'll put a link here in the episode notes for you as well.
So as Tony said just a minute ago, we're tackling these two questions. What kind of lover am I? And would I want to be intimate with a lover like me? And what I love about, every time we get behind the mic, the catalyst for an episode comes from different places. And this episode was actually inspired by a conversation that Tony and I participated in. It was actually a panel conversation that'll be coming out on Substack with Gary and Lisa Thomas. So Gary Thomas of Sacred Marriage, Shanti and Jeff Felden. Shanti and Jeff have researched so much in regard to marriage, what women want, what men want, a slew of books. And then also Dr. Corey and Pam Allen. You may know Dr. Corey Allen, the two of them from Sexy Marriage Radio.
Yep.
And so Gary Thomas had brought us all together, and it's this beautiful kind of meeting of the minds with all of, some of our heroes.
Yep, absolutely.
In the marriage world. We actually were the babies on the block in terms of the youngest married. It was a lot of fun. And we're sitting there and we're having this conversation, and Dr. Corey Allen throws out this question and talks about how he asks this of himself regularly. Would I want to be married to me? Would I want to have sex with me? Am I a good lover or am I selfish? And he went on to say it's likely both, right? In terms of,
Sure.
Good lover and selfish. But every time he thinks about it, it gives him an opportunity to get better. And it was this, we're in the middle of this conversation, and those of you that have coached with me, those of you that have, seen us, that I'm a note taker. And so literally that question jumped into my head because I was like, I have been married to Tony for almost 29 years, and I don't know that I have ever consciously taken the time to think, am I a good lover?
Has it made a difference over the last few days?
I think there's an awareness. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because it's not a question that we pose to ourselves very frequently. It maybe not ever. Some of you may be thinking I've never asked myself that. Have you ever asked yourself that question?
I don't think so in that regard. I'm not sure it's something that's come up in my mind where I'm like, am I a good lover? I think I just assume I am.
Okay.
There's an assumption I am. Now, that's saying now, and I'm I'm jokingly saying this, folks. I'm not saying I am. But
maybe a little bit.
But no, I don't think I would. I don't think I've ever really ask that in the way that Corey brought it up. Like, am I a good
really
lover? Like,
thinking about it.
No.
And evaluating yourself and coming back to, the quote that I started with, honesty is the highest form of intimacy, like being honest with yourself. Right. And so it got us thinking, obviously if Tony and I are thinking about something, we want to know what you're thinking. And so we had asked the one family on Instagram these questions and phrased them a little differently for the purposes of Instagram. But the first question I asked was, describe yourself as a lover in 1 or 2 words. Like, how would you describe yourself? Thinking about it. And we got words that, talked about like awesome, growing, patient, enthusiastic, all in, generous, giver, pleaser, moderately adventurous. And then there were a few words, a few phrases that really highlighted why we talk about what we talk about in these episodes. Coming to this place of saying, not everybody is giving themselves, the gold star, the 100%, I'm doing great. Because there were phrases like the worst, unskilled, naive. And you start hearing those types of phrases and you're like, whoa, okay, what does that mean? How does this play out in our lives? How do we get into this place of, thinking about that? And then looking at the next question was, would you want to be intimate with a lover like you? And, the overwhelming majority of responses were yes. Probably because most people feel like Tony does. Like, I'm a good lover. Like, we're good. Bring it on.
And I would say, again, we're evaluating ourselves. This is a self-evaluation.
Correct. I did not ask you how your spouse would describe you.
If we were to turn the tables, that this may look vastly different, and it may be even a question you and your spouse are going to ask one another. You may self-evaluate and then ask your spouse what they would think. So I personally believe most of us, when we look at ourselves from an individual standpoint, when you're asking me this question, I think we notch ourselves up personally, probably 1 or 2 steps. I just do. I think just human nature.
You see yourself more favorably.
It's why, like, sometimes when we do assessments or things of that nature, it's hard to be partial about who you are because you can game the assessment at times to see the way you want to see yourself. Elisa is very good at doing this.
I have a hard time taking assessments because my brain jumps ahead 2 to 3 steps to try and figure out what they're asking. It's just...
And so, like I said, when Elisa asked me, I am probably putting myself 1 or 2 steps ahead where Elisa could probably be like, hey, actually, you're not right now, or whatever it may be. So I just want to say that.
And I want to say I intentionally did not ask that reverse question.
You didn't. No.
But I want to explain why. And it's because, like, I don't want to create that kind of confrontational adversary relationship. Like, I want you to think about you.
True.
Not about how your spouse is showing up or how you think your spouse is showing up, because you're not in their head. So it's coming into this place of, would you want to, like, how are you as a lover? Would you want to have sex with you? And like I said, the vast majority of the responses was like yes, or overwhelmingly yes, or 100%. But then there were some responses that were like, That's all it said. I seriously doubt it.
Wow.
No, probably not. And those last, and there were a number of them that just kind of, sort of circled in that spot. But you start thinking about that and you're like, okay, well, how does that impact not just your sexual intimacy pillar, but your emotional intimacy, and very likely the 5 or the 4 that are in between, right? Because if you've got this narrative, if you're in this place where this is what's happening in your marriage, you can get into a place where you're just struggling, right? You're having these moments of disconnect because that's the narrative in your head, and you can get stuck, just in this place, right? Because and Tony and I have experienced this, right? Like, we have had seasons where we have not evaluated ourselves as lovers, and quite honestly, you've heard us say that we've never specifically asked ourselves this question. I do think we've asked ourselves probably things along the lines of, how am I showing up? How are we getting along? Those types of things, but never as personally as would I want to have sex.
Well,
with somebody like me.
I mean, the 6 Pillars of Intimacy monthly planner, that's the whole purpose of it, right? Like we're asking each other questions on a weekly basis of where we're at and what we're doing. It's different, what we're saying here, in terms of asking myself, am I a good lover?
Right, because if you don't ask, you can fall into this beautiful land of assumption. We can assume that our spouse is satisfied. We can assume that everything is going well, and maybe it's not. Maybe everybody's just kind of living in their own world of assumption. If we don't ask, what kind of lover am I? How am I showing up? How am I interacting with my spouse? Then we might not grow beyond where we're at. Right. So you can have this place where you're just like, well, this is good. We're as good as it gets. Right. And the other thing that can happen there when you don't ask these types of questions is that if your spouse does bring it up and they say, hey, I want to talk about our sex life, it is very easy to go on the defensive because you haven't actually taken the time to reflect. So you're just like, oh, well, like, we haven't talked about it. Like, I think I'm a good lover. I've never actually thought about it. But now you're asking me like about our sex life, and you can go into this place of defensiveness.
Well, wasn't it Shanti and Jeff who said 73% of couples have not talked about their sexual intimacy?
Yes, based on statistical research.
And they do a lot of research. Like, getting to know them while we were on the panel was just amazing. We know who they are through the books and everything, but she threw that number out there, and it had me baffled. Like 73% of married couples have not talked about their sexual intimacy.
I like to actually think the one family
is way above that.
Simply because you all have heard Tony and I talk about sexual intimacy for so long. But the truth still remains that there are a lot of couples that aren't talking about this. And maybe, and again, Tony and I are being very honest with the two of you. We've never actually asked ourselves individually this question as direct as Dr. Corey Allen placed it. And when we get into this place of, what's happening is, I've heard all kinds of things in coaching comments or coaching sessions where people have talked about realizing that they're just a passive participant in a sex life or being only focused on one individual's satisfaction, right? Like I've heard people say it's only been about me in the bedroom, or coming to this place decades into a marriage and going, I still don't feel like I've got any skills. And so I just kind of I'm just there. Right. And not stepping into this place of asking this question and then asking the follow-up question, well, what am I going to do about it? Right.
Well, the question is, what kind of lover am I? Number one. And then the next question you're saying is, what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or would I want to have sex? Maybe it's 3 questions. What kind of lover am I? Would I want to have sex with me? And then what am I going to do with the results of those first 2 answers? Right? Because it's not enough just to ask the first 2 questions. What kind of lover am I? Would I want to? Like, if you're not willing to do anything with that information, don't ask the questions. Like, you take it from a place of growth of going, I'm going to ask these questions, and then I'm going to do something about it. If you're great, like if you're like, you know what, I'm super attentive and I'm generous and all of these kinds of things, keep doing more of it. Like the what can I do is do more, and not like quantity more, just keep doing it, I guess.
Yeah, just continue to be a lover that your spouse wants to be around. Right. I think that would be the way I would see it.
Yeah. But if you answer those questions and it's not a great response because you're like, whoa, I got some work to do, then the what can I do is, what's the work going to be?
Now, as we've always said, there are different stages and seasons of life. And so where you are right now may be due to the season you're in. Mm-hmm. And so for you as a new mom, I'm just saying, somebody out there, you're in a different place, right? You're a new mom. You're tired. Even as a new dad, you're tired. You're frustrated. You're flustered. Whatever may be going on in different seasons, you may be going through, as a woman, perimenopause. As a guy, andropause. Right? Like there are times and seasons of our lives that we need to look at this. I think that was the beautiful thing when Corey brought it up too. Mm-hmm. Was like, here's a couple that's been married 32 years.
31, 32. Yeah.
And so, to me, it was just one of those, man, it would be an interesting question to begin to start asking, even myself, here at 28 years in, because there's still a lot of time left. There really is. I mean, Elisa and I were sitting down and we were watching the Notre Dame Miami game this past weekend. College football opened up. Thank you, Jesus. We got some college football on Saturdays. This weekend was a little longer, but we were watching that game. And Lou Holtz, for any of you who don't know, the old Notre Dame coach, was up in a suite. And looking at Lou, I remember him when he was a much younger guy. He is aged. He is older. And we just happened to look it up. Like, how old is Lou? You know, and then, like, how long has he been married? Well, his wife passed. And they were married like 59 years.
Yeah, it's a very, very long
They were
time.
married 59 years before she passed. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is Elisa and I are at 28 years, and it just made me go, oh my gosh. Like, that's still another 31 years. That's like more years than we have been married now, which boggled my mind. It really did. And so to ask this question, what kind of lover am I now? What does that look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now? It's vastly different. 30 years from now, I'm going to be 82 years old.
Still going strong.
I'm going to still be rocking and rolling, man.
Still going strong.
I live in Florida. We are going to rock and roll it, man.
All that humidity, keeping your skin all nice.
That's it. But again, it doesn't matter where you are in your marriage to go, well, I never asked this question and I've been married 40 years. Doesn't mean you can't start asking it now.
Absolutely. And, we're going to go just take a quick break. But as we do that, I just want you to start thinking about this question. Like, what kind of lover am I? And what am I going to do with that information?
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
I have to tell you about something that's become a non-negotiable in my skincare routine. Go Pure Neck Cream. As someone who spends a lot of time in the Florida sun, my neck and chest get a lot of exposure. You know how it is. We focus so much on our face, but then our neck starts showing our age. I discovered Go Pure about 6 months ago, and I wish I'd found it sooner. This isn't just another cream that makes promises it can't keep. My neck skin looks smoother, feels firmer, and I actually feel more confident wearing V-necks. What I love most is how quickly I saw results. The texture is luxurious but not greasy, and a little goes a long way. I use it morning and night, and one jar lasts me months. With over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret is no longer a secret. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code MARRIAGE at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com, use code MARRIAGE, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from One Extraordinary Marriage. We're back, and we've been talking about this question, what kind of lover am I? And would I want to have sex with me? Would I want to be sexually intimate with me? And being in this place, I just want to remind everyone that this isn't about being a perfect lover.
Right.
Okay. This isn't about being somebody that, makes the fireworks happen and has the bed laid out perfectly every single time and is always 100% responsive, because that's called perfection and that's impossible to attain. Like, let me just say that. The goal really is to step into this place of saying, hey, let me be self-reflective. Let me step into a place where I'll evaluate how I'm showing up, and then I'll do something with that information, right? It's like I was saying before we went to break, but, ask yourself, not just am I a good lover, but am I generous? Or have I been selfish in our intimate moments? Am I present or am I distracted? This one might be a question for all my ladies, because I know, talking to so many women over the years, we can get, and I won't even say mildly distracted, I'm going to say very distracted, thinking about the grocery list and the to-do list, and can the kids hear us, and is the laundry almost done, and all of these kinds of things. And our husbands are like, hey. I remember one time Tony looked at me and he goes, focus on me. Look at me. Can you please get in this moment with me? Mm-hmm. You want to talk about a time when Elisa was not being a good lover? That's it. That's a prime example. Are you focused on just your pleasure, or are you focused on your spousal pleasure. I can tell you early days of our marriage, and it's well documented on this podcast, so I'm not saying anything that Tony hasn't said. I would say for sure you were much more focused on yourself than you were on me early days.
Absolutely.
That has changed tremendously over the last
15, 16, 17 years. I mean, since the 60-day sex challenge, things began to shift.
But I think even like
She Comes First.
She Comes First had a big
that had a big impact.
That
I would say of the books that I have read over the last decade, when it comes to being a selfish lover or a servant lover, in my way of looking at it, that was a book that really profoundly impacted me, because I was like, oh wow, like what if I slow down, engage with Elisa, pleasure her, make sure she is having a good time, and then through that I'll be able to have a good time as well. And I think that began to change that dynamic, and that's where we got into a lot of at the time, if I can remember, we were using more toys. And then that's where that shift became, where we began to stop using toys. And it was more like, how am I pleasuring you just with my hands, with my mouth, like oral sex. We began to explore one another much, much more at that point in time.
It's funny. One of the other comments that came through when people asked about, or when I asked the question, what kind of lover are you in 1 or 2 words, somebody actually said clitoris licker. That just made me think of that. I was like, very descriptive. I love it. You know who you are and you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm going to put a link to this book, She Comes First. I know many in the One family have read it and have found it to be useful. I would say it's a book that both of you should read, because I think it's just a helpful perspective of like, okay, how is it that we can ask this question, what kind of lover am I? Because I do believe when we ask this question too, and I know where Corey was coming from, but now as I think about it, it goes both ways, because what kind of lover am I in a giving way? But what kind of lover am I as a receiving? Because I think there's two different, like, how am I receiving that too? Because I can be an amazing lover, but if you don't receive it, it can feel very brash and like, well, I'm trying everything I can here, and yet you're laying there like a piece of 2x4. And been there, done that, and I could be the best lover there is, and yet if you're just lying there with no enthusiasm, no excitement, you're not being a good lover in that point either. Like, so I think there is this.
There's a give and take to it.
How I think that the second question is here: what kind of lover am I? And then it's as a giver and as a receiver. Because I also think of as a giver, right? Oral sex, pleasing you, great. As a receiver, how am I engaging with you? How am I letting you know that I enjoy the touches, the feels, what you're doing to me? Because if I just lie there and give you no response, no feedback, no nothing, how would that make you feel?
Well, given that I've probably been the one actually doing that, I know from the conversations that we've had that it doesn't feel really good. And I think that's a big part of this. You know, do you bring enthusiasm to your encounters, or do you just bring this sense of obligation? Right? And you start looking at these questions, and I should have said from this top, the purpose of this episode is not to make anybody feel bad. Right? It's not to lay shame or blame. It's to go, okay, where have I been and where am I going to go? Right? Like, how am I going to look at myself, identify where I need to take action, and then start taking those steps?
Correct.
Right? This is a place of opportunity. I look at episodes like this as a place of opportunity to go, okay, what can I learn from the conversations with self and with spouse? And then taking action on that. What kind of transformation can I create? Because Tony's absolutely right. What kind of lover am I is not just about the giving. And I'm so glad that he had that revelation and shared it with all of us. It's also about the receiving. And it's saying, how do we as husband and wife choose to show up in our bedroom or any other room in the house where the two of you are choosing to be sexually intimate, the fullest version of yourself, the most engaged version of yourself as both the giver and the receiver, to create an experience for the two of you. Again, it's not always about the fireworks and, the angels singing in the background, but to create this connection that truly feels extraordinary for the two of you.
When we look at this question, again, it's one that Elisa and I have never thought of. And really this week, as we were mulling it over and going, what does that look like in our lives right here, right now? Mm-hmm. We wanted to bring it to you, the one family, because I think part of the process is, even for us, is we're walking through life together. And so this is a question that got posed and we sort of went, And I think it's a question that many of you will probably do the same thing. And just like Elisa and I, we're going to walk this out. We're probably going to ask ourselves at different times and in different ways, what kind of lover am I? And so this week, just take a moment, sit down. Maybe for some of you, you're going to bust out your notepad, a pencil. For others of you, you may just hit the notes app on your phone. But just put 1 to 3 things down. Right now, date it. What kind of lover am I? And then the second part would be, how am I showing up as a giver? And how am I showing up as a receiver? You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. It's truly an honor and a blessing to have you part of the one family. Just can't tell you enough how much we appreciate each and every one of you. Take care. Have yourselves a fantastic week. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.